continue to. We're ready to continue to our next part. Madara, thank you.
Pareizi. Citādāk viss
Yeah,
zina
so-
threshold un vienkārši
Nē,
naudas
tas
lietā.
Guys.
jā, bet tas ir jā, tā.
Thank you. Yeah, so these are our great panelists. So Andis Priedītis, Deputy Director from Consumer Rights Monitoring Department of Division.
CRPC, Consumer Rights Protection Center.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I know.
Yeah, please take a seat.
Okay.
So Renārs Roze, Chief Data Officer at DelfinGroup. Deivids Golubs, IT monitoring expert at the Department of Financial Innovation at FCMC. And Mārtiņš, Bērziņš, Head of Digital Customer Experience, Deputy Business Development at Citadele banka. So today during our discussion, we will share our experience and our panelists' experience primarily with how they're dealing with financial fraud and social engineering today. There are two experts from government side and two experts from private sector. And those who are in private sector, they have very different experiences in terms of fraud, because fraud are very different in those two companies. So I hope we'll have an interesting discussion. So first, I would like to start with the introduction. So a bit to share about a bit information about our panelists. So you guys are obviously on the forefront of dealing with customer complaints. You probably have a lot of customer complaints coming in on a daily basis about them falling victims to either like financial fraud or maybe dealing with unlawful behavior in terms of service providers in general. Like how has it evolved over the last couple of years, and what are you seeing right now?
Okay. Yeah, we are dealing mostly with consumer complaints. We've got approximately a little more about 300 consumer complaints about financial services of all kinds, because we are the main surveillance institution over the consumer rights, including financial services. So we don't surveil only non-bank credit sources, it's consumer credit providers, but also credit institutions and payment service providers and all others. But and there is, of course, approximately 2,000 consultations, which is by phone or by email. But there is approximately, in this year, we got only 9 or 10 complaints about the fraud. So we guess people know their rights. Maybe they know that they can become a victim of fraud, and later on, when they understand that they are the victims of the fraud, then they are ashamed to complain. So maybe they go to police or I guess so, I hope so. Yeah. But they don't complain to us, because there is mostly, not in all cases, we may help them. We may just give information or something like that, but we can't investigate, as it is work for police.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So to FCMC a bit more, like, so you guys there's been a lot of development in terms of consumer education, but also industry leaders education and company education. So we're both like individual and technological. So is there something that you want to highlight in terms of what has been developed and what measures are working and which measures are not working to your knowledge?
From my perspective as IT monitoring expert, so we look on compliance of our financial market participants, right? So we have a regulation according to security management and risk management, also incident reporting, and especially on training of users of our not only of our financial market participants, but employees and top management, and especially of those people who are involved in cybersecurity. And in context of this year, we had seen that since the war in Ukraine started, there were a lot of DDoS attacks, according to Latvian public sector and also organizations in financial sector. But as we see, we are doing well, because it depends, of course, on maturity of organization. So as bigger the organization is, so as much they are taking care on security, right? Of course, there could be some difference in case if there are smaller companies, like, for example, these insurance brokers. But according to today's topic about the fraud, we need to know that we as individuals, we are vulnerable, so because we are humans. And of course, there is a question on education and those topics, especially in the organizations where we have a regular process of education, especially in context of social engineering risks, right? But there is a somehow gap if we try to measure, for example, corporate culture, how we are dealing with risks of not only social engineering, but also information security risks, especially how we use technologies. Yeah. But when we are alone, so we are facing our individual habits according how we use technologies, how we behave, yeah, and how we act.
So in terms of like individual versus corporate, whose approach to fraud prevention and social engineering was most successful?
Those companies actually who are not trying only to educate their staff, but also doing some stress tests, you know, like doing some measures with, for example, simulation of phishing emails and trying to catch how our users act, because of course after training, so we pass, for example, tests successfully, so we have understood all the topics what was in training, yeah. But so what's happened when we get this phishing email?
Yeah.
And actually, I remember in my academic studies, I did also some research, and there is also a question, from perspective of culture. So, because there could be more mature organizations, not only, for example, there's in standard perspective, there is a one time in a year for all the users to get this education lecture. But of course, some organizations are doing education process in more frequent manner, not only one time per year. But and the question is, what happened when we got this phishing email?
Yeah.
And so there is not question only on how well I'm educated, but what's going on in my mind at this moment, and how do I react emotionally?
Yeah. So from corporate side, Mārtiņš, your company has been on a forefront of customer product development. You currently are one of the most successful banks in terms of products provided to your customers, combining great customer service and robust technological system. Like, how hard was it for you? How hard it was to adopt to existing scenarios, and what issues are you currently facing on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so yes, we had a certain advantage because probably we started with digital onboarding already since 2018, and that was maybe not the time when most of the attacks were really so much targeted for the bank users. And I think that already initially we were having a lot of discussions with partners with whom we are implementing these technologies. So we also have had a time to kind of grow and improve these systems and make them more secure. However, we anyway see that the weak point is anyways the customer, who can quite easily just for some particular reasons, and it could be not just social engineering, but also in banks we also see that fraud happens between the family members, and in some of the cases we are just sharing our payment credentials, and also in some cases identities as well. I think it starts from like giving out to somebody payment card and giving a PIN number and saying, hey, go and buy something. But same also could be implied in other scenarios. And like just to show these, let's say, borders of the extremes, I can also like mention the case when I was talking with some of the friends and visiting like a company which is working in a field of outsourced bookkeeping. And when I was entering the office, I saw that the bookkeepers are having on their working desks ID cards of the citizens with
no.
PIN numbers.
Oh,
So it means that we are having also like large number of the people who are ready to give for somebody else to hold their, I would say, full identity, and absolutely everything can be done. So though there is like really huge difference between all of these cases, we are working with different customer groups, talking and trying to educate these people. But I think just to sum up and maybe simplify all this, you need to work with certain customer groups with certain risk-based approach, where you are basically saying, okay, for these products or for these services, this is a level of risk I'm ready to tolerate. If I'm going further, what is the next list? And so step by step, you can just add additional layer of the security. Either you are doing the payment or either you are applying for the new services, trying to sign agreements. So at this moment, we kind of, at least from organization perspective, but I think that not only like from Citadele's perspective, but I also probably as a person being quite involved in all this product development for quite a while, I will be saying that we need to become more suspicious against certain inquiries which are coming towards us every single day, and maybe ask, should I really respond? Should I really act on certain inquiry?
Yeah, thank you. So to Renārs, your business is similar but also different to Citadele. So you're working mostly with loans, and what I can imagine is that you're also dealing with fraud on a daily basis, but your fraud, I guess, is very different. So what are you facing right now?
Yes, so we as a company, we work in consumer lending and in so also in the pawn lending. In the pawn business, the frauds are more specific, and I will not go in detail about that, but about the consumer lending. So in the offline side, where we also issue loans in the branches, there are more those first and second party frauds, where the person who is applying for loan is applying with the intention not to pay back, or he's applying for a loan knowingly that he will give this money to his friend or relative. And we see those issues also really in this offline segment as well. But regarding the online business, there of course comes this third-party fraud or stolen identities, and they are really of very different types. There are cases when relatives take have stolen or gained access to those bank details. We have had cases where even the person who has recently died, and we still don't have the information in the state registries about the death. After the death, someone has gained access and has applied for the loan, and we have issued the loan. And this is kind of issue with the state registry, like regulation. And then, of course, those kind of classic third-party frauds when someone, this imposter, has gained access to the banking details, which we use as a tool for to identify the customer. He applies like on behalf of someone else, and so when we, from the data perspective, we receive see data in all the, we check afterward this person, all the registries, his income, his external credit bureau information. From the data perspective, he's a good client, but actually behind the screen there's someone else. And so this is really the worst situation, because in those scenarios we lose money as a lender. Most likely this victim, he has some trouble with us or with the bank, so how to get this money back. And of course, also when this third-party fraud happens, in many cases we don't really know whether it has been really a fraud situation or just the person had some trouble to repay the loan. And in those cases, most likely we will put this person in our internal blacklists, maybe in those credit bureau data. He will also will be shown as a debtor, and so he will have a bad credit history that will prevent him to get the loan sometime afterwards when he'll really need it. So this is apart from our side, but globally, in the Latvia, in the industry, I would say that these fraud levels are, well, compared to the situation that is outside Europe, where in Ukraine and previously in Russia, in Georgia, I know that there this fraud, even in the double digits, these fraud levels were for the applications. Here in Latvia, we have our own internal checks, we have internal credit scoring, we have those the checks that we have to do because of regulation, credit bureau data, income verification, DSTI levels, and all those layers kind of course, work in this credit risk evaluation, but they also catch those fraudsters, and I suppose that many of those fraudsters are prevented in some of those layers, and but there is still room for improvement, and I hope we'll talk about it a bit later.
Yeah, sure. But something that strikes me very, very hard when what you told is that people would use someone's data who's deceased in order to fraud. What is the? It's very to myself. It's very cynical to do something like that. What would and I guess this is a question to everybody, what would push somebody to commit to that kind of fraud, using this deceased person's data to commit fraud? What's the motivation there?
Yeah. So, well, speaking about that, so between the moment of death and moment that those information appear in the state registry, there can be even a week between. I don't know, the person dies on the Friday, then you go to Monday to the doctor, that he issues this note that the person has died, and then one more day while it's registered in the registries. But I guess it's we see this for the elderly persons, where there is someone who, the external person who takes care of him when he's alone. And so there are cases, even when he is alive, when we hear that there have been apartments have been taken from them. And so I guess those are the same persons who then, if they have access to their banking details or the PIN codes and so on, they can just use it.
Okay.
I wanted to comment here a little bit, because I think, again, maybe I'm just coming out with some of those extremes. but I just wanted to remind that we are talking also about the cases when sometimes some family members are putting the deceased person in the fridge and no one knows that for a year. And they are still receiving, pensions from the government, and then, it becomes clear that person is really not with us anymore, and it is really, really very sad. But also maybe to add more and give like a little bit color, we have seen also the cases when person or persons are trying to do digital onboarding for these kind of persons. So it's seldom cases, but we have seen that. And also maybe not always you need like a dead person to try to do digital onboarding. We also have seen the cases when person is paralyzed and we know that nothing can be really done, and according to our rules and terms and conditions, person themselves needs to do the onboarding, and somebody is trying to do this digital onboarding for this person. So again, these are like those extremes which we see. This is really sad, but you need to be prepared. And when you are having like a plan B and you know how you are going to act, then I think it could be prevented.
So in terms of extremes in general, and again, question to, I guess, to everybody is how frequently you see those like new fraud scenarios or new fraud approaches appear in real life?
Well, I would say that most frauds are very unique. Like every fraud case, there is some unique aspects of it, and also those, even if these are some kind of fraud schemes, then they change from time to time. And so even if we know that a couple of months ago there was this kind of techniques used to make frauds, and now they already have transformed to different. And so those also extreme cases, they are really very, very different. And so this is also one of the reasons why they are really difficult to prevent.
Yeah, but may I step in?
Sure.
I don't think
go
that
ahead.
we should talk much about these exceptions, because I think we have to think about more collective interests and professional fraudsters, and we all know that the world is changing right now, and the European Union, at least, there are all revisions under directives and regulations, and not in financial regulations such as MiCA or Capital Market Union Act and CCD, MCD, and Distance Marketing Financial Service Directive, but also data regulations. So at first we have payment services, then open banking, we will have open finance, and then open data. So there will be place for those regtechs and other fintechs, which will help to make those compliance under regulation of AML at least. So it is closely related to AML. So we will never be ready for all kind of attacks or threats. So I hope here in Latvia at least will rise new generation fintech companies which will help to do the compliance. And I wanted to say on previous discussion about the knowledge and financial literacy, there are quite, I don't know how old this survey was, but and it was European or around the globe, but at least Latvian knowledge about the fraud and financial literacy at all is quite high. But the problem is how to use this knowledge and put in place when you see the situation. So, and that is what we should talk about, and this is the one of the focus in the next year for my agency.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for actually mentioning that. So,
and one more place. Yeah, because of these regulations, there will be such as with one single access point, you will get access to all kind of services, not only financial services such as banking or consumer credit, but also insurance, pension, and when the open data will come in place, then you will have access to telecom, electricity, and so you can lose all your assets and funds in one moment. So this
Yeah.
is big threat actually, and we see there are a lot of problems, but also a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. So something that is indeed very important to notice is that people tend to be very reluctant to control who has access to their data. They tend to provide a lot of consent than they then forget about, and this could be this is a major threat to customer protection from like financial and non-financial sector. But I guess this is already being dealt with to some extent. Like, to which extent exactly is it being dealt with, and is it being dealt with at all?
I don't know what you really mean. Do you think how we are dealing with these issues like now?
Yes,
or
exactly.
I guess we are working closely with FCMC and other institutions. For example, consumer credit providers have internal control systems in place. They don't need to talk about credit institutions. So I guess we have a quite high level of consumer protection at least, but there is also arising threats, and then we should work most closely with other agencies and with each of stakeholders, with associations, and what are we doing, I guess, all the time on previous 5 to 10 years already. So we can meet in every day if it's necessary. So when we are doing that, actually, that's right. It's not like we are not, don't talk to each other.
Sure.
And sharing information, yeah, it's a very big issue.
Maybe about some positive changes on the market and also like trends. What I think is very visible, especially during the last year, we see that actually clients have really changed their usage of access to the internet bank, switching over to the mobile applications. And this is one of the very important aspects when we are talking about the security, and we very much also from our side drive this change, because even if we are talking about elderly people, they are starting to switch and they are starting to use mobile devices. And what it gives is, first, we get like access or we get the knowledge about a particular device and also locations and other things what can be used for security purposes to validate and basically know that this person is this person. But secondly, and this is actually more important aspect, we also teach and share with a client his activities, his or her activities. So it means that you are getting notified about any changes, and you are also able from the mobile device execute and do like chat via secure channels within a bank. So you can also do a call from the application, which allows us to do like more proper identification, so which again reduces the fraud. And this is probably the direction what we currently see, because the more we are starting, and I think, Lev, you were also mentioning in your presentation that, hey, let's use two-factor authentication. Guess what? Two-factor authentication has been used already for quite a long time. I think that here we are talking about that besides two-factor authentication, we are starting to plug in also a lot of data from biometry, which is basically securing those transactions what the clients want us to do. And also, I think that in mobile application and in those particular interfaces, we can much better also show the different consents we are providing. And you can turn on, turn off, and we are also talking about, you know, necessity that maybe you create like additional accounts or separate accounts where you are keeping like main amount of money, and then the accounts you are using for daily purposes. And if you are trying to build this environment around you in a proper manner, then you are starting to build like some fortifications for yourself. But also from the bank's perspective, we are not like stopping only with that, but of course there comes in a lot of artificial intelligence, we like to call it, but we are starting to look on different behavioral patterns for the clients. And this is actually another level of the security, which helps us to like improve also security for the customer funds, his assets, and on the same time also interact and also proactively ask client, are you trying to do this? And another thing, I think this is maybe being visible from big vendors like Apple, Google. We are always like getting notified, hey, you are starting to use new device. So same also applies nowadays in banking as well, because you can also in a mobile application, you can see the devices you are connected with and what are the tools you are using. So I would say that there is a lot of significant developments what are happening in this direction. I think also very good point from their side was that we need to do more of these trainings and simulations. I actually think that this is one of the ways how you can really with gamification tools get like attention to these things. So, okay, you clicked, but don't worry, this is nothing bad with that. So we did it on purpose, but this is for your own good, you know. And I think these kind of engagements should be happening, but this is not going to solve this really worst case scenario when we are giving away our identity. And this is something where we need to talk, I think, the whole industry together, that there is something or some particular data set which should be your own. And then I think there comes on like different other things like passwords, access to different sites, subscriptions. And again, there needs to be this discussion. What happens if, unfortunately, every one of us is going to die? Sorry. So, but we need probably to think about our families and also how we are going to provide knowledge to the data that I'm having like assets here, and that you need to maybe talk with these particular organizations to, in a legal way, obtain the access and get benefit out.
So do you feel that as we currently have our Latviešu valodas diktants, we should have like a financial literacy exam for the whole nation, maybe make it a competition for everybody?
That's the great idea, and that's something what startups should certainly do.
I would like to supplement, maybe, as you talked about me. Yeah, there's no question only on financial literacy, right? Because actually we have very powerful technologies today, actually in our pocket. You see, there's almost our second identity, or even we could not imagine it some 20 or 30 years ago that we'll have such a powerful device in our pocket, right? And of course, there's a question how to use this device properly. And in the context of those notifications, that's good that we could have these notifications from bank, but we need to be aware and that we are living in times of there's a lot of informational noise. So we can just ask ourselves how many WhatsApp groups we have in our phone, and also a lot of another messengers, and constantly all these incoming messages are coming, emails and short messages, right?
Here, there's, I think that we need to also talk about the culture itself.
Yeah,
about
of course.
using
Yeah.
different devices, because sorry, but I'm not receiving all the notifications, and I'm also not receiving all the SMSs. So
Yeah, but that's a
I have
question.
created
Yeah.
the certain focus modes, and based on the focus modes, I'm receiving certain information.
That's
When I'm up-
technological literacy, right?
True.
Yeah.
And I think that also we shouldn't be stopping just with the idea that, hey, this is a phone. So there is also a lot of watches. I think in the nearest future we are going to have headphones, which are also going to be much more smarter, and so on and so on. So
Yeah.
it's question how to supplement technology with also intelligence, and also probably the culture to put all these things work for the client.
Because technologies are changing so fast, and it's even hard, to learn. For example, you should just try to compare different versions of Android.
True, but also I think that we should sometimes stop and think if we really are ready to execute certain transactions. And I will give you one example. As you can see, I'm very much linked with technology, and I'm open to try different things. I have been one of the co-founders of one of the first fintechs here in Latvia, and also on the same time being the board member responsible for all the compliance, AML, and so on. So there is a thin line when also we as organizations are requesting certain data sets, and also this idea about, do we want to do it very simple way, with just one click, or we want to show this choice, and also what information is going to be shared where. And also, if I'm going to give the consent at the moment, where and how I can change it. So I think that this also goes very much with the topic we discussed, that where this future goes. So there is going to be more data about us available. So the question is how we are giving this consent. And I said that to give an example. So I'm in Vilnius. I need to do payment for parking. So I can, obviously there is a provider of the parking services who is using third-party payment initiation services. So, but when I'm receiving suggestion, hey, to do €2 payment, we would like to get your access to all your 7 accounts in Citadele Bank, I'm having big question marks. Why should I give access to all my 7 accounts? I'm fine to give access to one of the accounts I was mentioning I'm using for daily purposes. So currently we are giving this consent for 90 days. Nowadays we are talking about already extension that this consent is going to be given for 180 days. And if I have given access to this information, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be working or fintech shouldn't be asking. That's okay, but we also need to kind of think if sometimes we are training client to give too much consent, and maybe generate also this trigger that the next time when also the fraudster is going to reach out to us, I'm also going to give everything. So maybe trying to find this thin balance about the information, what is really required for that particular transaction, and then also for the security.
Yeah, but there is no question only on giving access to your bank accounts. There's also a question on giving permissions. For example, when installing free app,
Yeah.
and most of us probably will not read all these
Terms and
permissions.
conditions.
Yes, terms and conditions. So,
guess-
and
So regarding those concerns about the bank data access that now with PSD2, so different companies can access if the customer has given consent. I think there we should like keep in mind how easy for the customer it is to revoke his consent, because if he has once given, then whether it is really for him so easy way to get to say that he doesn't want anymore to that this or another company has access to this his accounts. But another thing that you asked about this financial literacy exam, I think that one like direction where we should think more is about education of young persons about their financial literacy, because I think that we all agree that they are the most digitized part of society, and now in the past year there are also multiple new investment ways, all the bitcoins and all other ways, and so the young persons, when they get access to their first money, they are one of the first ones who use take part in those. Sometimes there are schemes, sometimes there are legitimate ventures, but still I think that there is not enough information for them. I don't know, some friends suggested or family members.
May I step in this?
Go ahead.
This is very close
I-
to
yeah,
our
Close to home.
yeah, close to home. So there we are not changing technologies, but those people are changing also. And the question is actually, we are very smart here, I guess. But how to reach them? That's the question. These are not only elderly people, but the young people. How to reach? We have a lot of information in the CMC homepage, in Bank of Latvia
Oh, no,
homepage, and
forget it.
all other.
Those are boomer technology. Like, no way they're going there.
Yeah. There no one looking for information. So how to reach, and there we are looking for cooperation with banks, non-banks, and other surveillance institutions to achieve the result, because we should find the new ways to reach.
So maybe it's special course in the high school in the last
should be
courses.
should be embedded in an NFT for sure.
Oh,
So maybe Renārs, to comment your thought. I think that this is very good, and this is currently what we also as a bank we do. We have the classes with school kids, especially different ages. And lately we had I was participating in a third grade class, so 9-10-year-olds. They are very active because they are earning money in different games. So we as a parents sometimes don't need to give money to them. They are earning already themselves. So I think that also in these situations, like Lev said, he was mentioning that in past he lost some money. Sure. All of us have lost some money. So this is part of education, and at least me as a father for 3, I'm looking at this pretty easy, and let them burn. Everyone needs to burn a little bit.
Little.
So, but then it's up to us as a parents, and also there is certainly the niche, and there also is our responsibility as a parents to also teach them, educate them. And you are not going to do anything in some of those bad situations, which, for example, happened with my oldest son in Stockholm, which was robbed at the gunpoint, and he kind of had all his money on one of his bank cards with him. So basically, in these situations, you are not going to do anything, right? So only thing which I could do also and talk with him was, hey, first, you don't need to run around with all the money on your one card. If you are running in a city, you can use a secondary card, get a secondary account, but those are things which are unfortunately happening. But I think that this is how we are also building our stamina and knowledge in these tough times.
That's risk perception through personal knowledge.
Yes.
But in context of cyber hygiene, as we have started this topic, that's another initiative. During last years, there was also a lot of activities, especially in adult education area, focusing cybersecurity, and people are interested in this topic and wants to know much more about that. But as I said on beginning, as humans we are vulnerable, and so what me as an individual can do for that, what can I do with my vulnerabilities? And as I said, one interesting topic, actually, it's like trendy today, emotional intelligence, right? And how do I deal with my emotions? How can I be aware? So what's happening inside me? For example, when I am reading, is it news or is it an email? So as much more emotions are involved, so less rationally I act. And that's one point. Second point, it's also another trend like mindfulness right now. So it's very interesting to compare people who practice mindfulness every day and how do they behave in such situations where they are dealing with uncertainty. So what should I do in the moment when I'm threatened?
So in terms of emotional intelligence, this is indeed very important also when dealing with fraud, because to our knowledge and to like general observation, a lot of like fraudulent involvement happens on emotional basis. So social engineering always like focuses on emotional side, not rational side of their victims. And to what extent can we like get our emotions out of the picture when dealing in financial technology, specifically for young adults who again tend to be more emotional and tend to be involved in like more emotional purchases, again talking cryptocurrencies, talking some investment opportunities, talking NFTs and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I think that's not only a problem for young people, because if we try to do some statistics, right? So we can find that a lot of adult people who are trying to invest somewhere and get rich in 2 days,
Right here, you will win $1 million.
Yeah, but the another point that Mārtiņš mentioned about kids in school, but actually we should start in kindergarten, because a lot of those small.
But this is also
like
one of the topics we are having all the time discussions. This week we also had discussion with Ministry of Regional Development, and there is also discussion now with FCMC, because frankly speaking, we are having like very old civil law, and also like onboarding for the financial services for the kids are significantly limited. So which also brings us to the case that we cannot easily interact with them. I think that this has been already identified during discussions with Latvia Finance Association, with ministries and also the government. There is positive indication that there are going to be changes, but exactly, we need to look that, the law which has been written is at the moment not really representing maybe current modern state of the society, and we need to amend it into the proper directions. But yeah, I think also when we are talking about these investments or what is our bank's main message, what we are also trying to do through different newsletters, what we are sending out to the clients when we are talking with the clients. First is that if you are having any, let's say, uncertainty, you need to find somebody with whom you can consult. And you can always reach out to your bank and ask also, how does this transaction look? Is it going to be safe or not? And we are certainly there to provide this customer service. So I believe the same is, I think, applicable to any organization which cares about their customer satisfaction and also well-being. Second is, if like in general you are getting like proposal which sounds to be too good to be true, believe it's fraud.
Yeah.
And always you can check it and also follow up on that suggestion, which is like very urgent, tomorrow, next week, and so on. So if you will see that the interest from the fraudster falls, then probably you can also have additional time to consult with somebody and have a second opinion on these things.
Yeah, but there is also a question on quality of information, right? Because what kids are doing is they are asking Google, yeah, so or even
This
me
is actually,
as
this
an
is a-
adult, yeah.
This is actually one of the very popular ways of the fraud that we
I
are
saw it
also
on
seeing.
YouTube, yeah,
Yeah, so no, but I think that something what currently has been used and where we are also as a bank fighting and getting involved with CERT and also with other organizations is the fact that fraudsters are creating like these websites looking as legit bank interfaces with the same way how you can enter in, and they are promoting these links in Google Ads. So if you are not like certain about where to go or how to open your internet bank, and you are trusting Google, Bing, and all the rest of the search systems, you might get actually the first link to the fraudulent site. And I think that this is, again, something we are trying to talk very much with our clients, that, okay, if you can type in a Google Citadele, then you certainly can also type in your address bar citadele.lv. So it's not so big deal, but at least then you know that there is, the right link.
So like all those like consents that we talked about, data protection, PSD2, like social media, Google ad links, like fake information versus real information. It seems like in our info space, there is so much information that like some people, or maybe even most of the people, currently cannot like grasp it. So to sort of maybe end our discussion on this note, like, are our technology actually becoming too smart for us at this moment? And should we maybe back up a bit in terms of development and rolling out new features and new ways how to interact with each other? Like, what's your...
I would say that no, because all those developments, they make our lives easier and they create new opportunities. We just need to think about ways how to prevent that. For example, also for our industry, like I previously said, we use external credit bureau data, and we see one issue that now, according to law, the banks and other financial institutions have to report those new loans once, like up to 10 days, this time period. I know that in our industry, in consumer lending, most of the companies like send in this report information once a day, but still it means that this potential fraudster, he can, during the day, he can access for the loan in multiple companies, and he will most likely pass this external credit bureau check because we don't see those other loans, and so this is one part of this fraud part. And second, of course, is a bit more like that should be concern for regulators, that those customers also, even if they are like non-fraudsters, they can easily overstep those DSTI limits, and we just can't check it that he has gone over those 40% or so, because we don't see this information. And this is one way how we can improve. It is the real-time reporting or near real-time reporting that should be, I guess, changed in the regulation. And I think that we all would benefit from that. The clients would benefit from that, of course, good clients, and we as an industry also would benefit with that. And so this is one way how also we can it's okay that there are many new possibilities, but we have to think about ways how we can improve this prevention of frauds or
Yeah, completely agree with him. And actually, the technology is we have to use it. At first, we don't need to fall back of other world. And as we saw in 2008 and 2010 in crisis, then when those consumer credit service providers arise, then banks had to catch up them in technologies. So it's banks use money for their compliance also, and in their technologies, and it was good push for them, I think. So we don't need to stop. We just need to find a good balance between technology and our safety.
So in terms of technology, there is actually one question from our Facebook Live that we're currently doing. So what does the regulator, I guess, question to the regulator. So what does the regulator think about AI-based system, I guess, to fraud prevention? Is it okay for the systems to be loosely interpreted as just AI without like any specifics? FCMC and that's maybe.
Artificial intelligence. I guess it's a like a new tool. We have to like teach it, but when it will become very smart, it will be good tool to prevent fraud. Of course, we have doubts and threats. There is risks that the other side will use artificial intelligence also. So. It's the same. We have to find the ways to stop fraud and teach people not to give consents and improve financial literacy and most essential, we have all work together to be on one page.
Yeah. In context of AI, we as a human, we cannot teach AI in more that. We are knowing, so that's a question only on how well we can use AI to supplement our routines. For example, in the case of big data, and in case of many operations where some computing power is needed, also, for example, to compare time spent for monitoring or for investigation. That's one point, and another point that we are still on need to cooperate with AI, because we are I think not ready to give this competence to AI and to rely on it, because we as a humans, as I said, we are vulnerable, and we are not vulnerable only from perspective as somebody can attack me as a human, yeah, but I as a human can be wrong, and I can make a decision, and this decision could not be perfect, yeah, because somebody can always improve my method, and in context of social engineerings and fraudsters, it's like an art, yeah, because those guys are always one step before us. Yeah.
So we need to. What you're basically saying is that we need to cautiously embrace the upcoming great technology in front of us.
Yeah.
But I still think that also Mārtiņš mentioned that they are using this behavioral analysis of like unusual behavior of customer. This is also one like direction where AI and machine learning is much better than any of us could like do manually. And if we want to like push it in the big scale, so the only way to do is by using some kind of machine learning that can see that the customer's transaction or behavior is out of his usual way, and so I think that this is certainly one of the ways where AI is, and fraud prevention in all cases it's about this unusual behavior, and
Yeah, but Renārs, I think that you are right, but you are right when you are talking about trained AI, and this is exactly David's point.
Of course, AI is
That
at
there
different
needs
levels.
to be like certain time when maybe those two technologies, like working manually and AI works in parallel, and then and this is actually our experience also with FCMC when we introduced also digital onboarding. So there was initially like red signs. Also how you are going to trust, and we said no, we are going to show there is going to be like initially manual checks on top of that, but the goal is that as we know that the number of transactions is going to grow, there needs to be like certain like score similar like to the credit score, where you can say, okay, this is green, this is kind of yellowish. Okay, so let's take it to the manual. Okay, this is red, and even the red you might take also to the manual as well. So it means that also if you are like talking about behavior, and I can give like very simple maybe example, because first time I saw like, we can call it like behavioral analysis from the bank was somewhere like beginning of year 2000, when I was first time like traveling somewhere, and I got a call from the bank. Are you really traveling? There is somebody trying to do like payment with your card. And I'm saying, yes, I'm traveling. So now there is like more data, and probably you can see that you bought a tickets, and now you booked already like a car in Rome. And then it kind of goes together, and you see that, okay, now the person is in Rome. Yes, this looks legit. But all this is anyways based on some kind of information what you are preparing to train this AI. And then AI is just another tool which helps us to get the necessary data into real time, what Renārs mentioned, and then also then we can see and probably benefit. So it is important that this technology is not just taken and replaced. There is a time when you need to like introduce and also see if something, if what you have selected works in a way you anticipated that this is going to work that way.
Yes, definitely, and I think that in the fraud, all the scope, if we would rely completely on AI, there would be because like frauds, they are a very small percentage of all the transactions, and of course, if you train any model of the so imbalanced data, you'll get a lot of false positives, which means that we like completely relying on AI, we would prevent many like legitimate transactions, and that's why it's a way to that there should be like two-step authentication also, like so to say authentication for this for canceling this possibly fraudulent transaction, but also there are now like you can send I don't know, if there is this card transaction for example in bank, you can send push notification in the mobile app, so he really can push that he approves this, or you can make automatic robocalls even, which also you can use to confirm this transaction. So also there are tools that can be used without so much involvement of the human, where we can use like technology to prevent all the fraud transactions.
Yeah.
So you
So
mean
as I
security through convenience, yeah.
I'm sorry. So as I mentioned, like cautiously embrace the upcoming future of AI anyway, and we're happy that we have Citadele over here who already pioneered something in that sense, and I'm sure we would be happy to share this experience more over snacks. We're already a bit over time, so thank you everybody for participating, and thank you for our very patient audience. We have a question, right? Yeah, so we have one question from the audience, and then we can maybe share two questions from the audience, and then we can share.
Hi, this is Zakia. Thank you very much for the very, interesting session and to have insight in fintech industry here. I have a question because we have bank over here, the fintech and the regulators. So it will be a good question to ask, I guess. How the fintechs and the banks are collaborating with each other to prevent the fraudulent activities? Are you still like competitors here? Or it's more like you have discussions how we can improve it together?
I can answer to one part is there was a couple of months ago, there was discussion within the association about creating, so to say, centralized blacklist for the like potential fraudsters that we see. But as far as I know, it has those discussions have closed and they're
Still in works.
Well, I don't know whether it's still in works or they have been cancelled, but so this is one of the way how the industry can cooperate. Of course, there have to be like all the consents and all the regulations in place, but still this is one way how to cooperate. And also, I think Andis also previously mentioned that also the regulators are like actively being involved in different kind of activities. I also think that, for example, this example of this timely or real-time reporting is also one of the way how regulator can go to the legislator and say that we have to change this in the law and do it.
Maybe just Renārs to add. So this initiative which you just mentioned is very much alive. I know that banks are talking and there is going to be this kind of register next year. So we even know that who is going to build the technology, but still there should be some legal things done, and also FCMC is very closely involved in this question, as well as still we are discussing technologies, APIs, and other things. So this is happening. This is like to answer your question, but talking about maybe Citadele and how we see this cooperation with the fintechs, we are working very closely with the fintechs. So just to give maybe some of the examples, I think most of you have heard about Nordigen. Citadele was the first client for the Nordigen. So then I think also in this group of people, you have heard about the name Verif. We were Verif, they are Estonian startup who does the digital verification. And also there is in Lithuania on data. So for Verif, we were the first clients who did this selfie identification method over the mobile phone. So and also within the bank, we are also having our own area where we have created clicks in really like startup mode, and which is like a platform which enables user of any bank to do the payments, do also buy now, pay later options. So we are very, very open in cooperation with fintechs. I would say that on a weekly basis, I'm having these discussions.
Thank you.
I would add now the consumer perspective to this question. First of all, appreciate it that you are all collaborating actively and regularly. I personally have done some work this year on, let's say, simulating and stress testing in terms of reaction times from public space, like agencies, and it takes usually 30 to 90 days until they answer a consumer on a case, potentially a fraud. And as Lev said, those fraudsters are reacting spontaneously, means they appear today and they are tomorrow gone. What could be an approach to engage faster with the consumer, especially in identifying the threats from their perspective when they see something, to understand if there is really a fraud and when this could be happen or how it is happened, so that you can react as an industry faster on this? Is there anything what is dealing with this? Because currently I can tell you what I have experienced is more than shocking, because it's nothing which is preventive or proactive. It's always on, if something happens, we can do something. But honestly, then it happened already. So how to deal faster with the consumer communication?
So to sort of rephrase, I guess, the question, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a consumer, how I can report fraud that I see done by third parties?
Exactly. And
yeah,
get a fast reaction or an engagement on this, because also the consumer language is different to the industry language, and that's also a huge challenge in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess this question is all of the world. I don't know. There is some initiatives already. You told about the CRT or test.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but we need to find a good solution for the legal basis, and this is the Financial Latvia Association initiative, and we're supporting it. But we are thinking that it's not enough if it's not for all electronic service providers. So if you have to choose or put for yourself, I read it. I can't do that, but myself, for example. So it should be as a law, and I see that it should be not as hard administrative job, because it is very time consuming. But for example, 2 or 3 institutions as FCMC or CRPC or Bank of Latvia just see that there is 10 red flags. For example, they're not address, not proper email, or they something like that. There is the red flags. So when we are taking like 3 or 2 signs, for example, prima facie, this is a fraudulent page. So every user from Latvia which put it in address bar see, for example, a warning, and press button for more information about what kind of red flags, for example, PMCC or CRPC sees there, and I got the risk and press, so we can deal something like that. We also should create some other homepage where all the consumers may inform all the associations, all the surveillance institutions, for example. That could be a good idea, but it's they need funding for that, so that's some kind of problem. And of course, financial literacy, that there is a necessity for consumers that they trust to our surveillance institutions, to our finance associations, that they and we are working for them, not against them. So it's about the trust also.
So the shorter answer is that there are still great opportunities ahead of us.
Yeah, maybe to add, so every bank in Latvia and Baltics has already implemented plan where we are receiving these notifications from the client in any of the digital channels. They are verified immediately. So there is a team, and we are, if that is true, that there is a potential fraud, then we are informing the clients, we are informing CRT, CERT, and there is, depending on threat levels, there is information which goes also to the other colleagues, to other let's say, to the regulator, to maybe some other colleagues in other banks and so on. But it's question how this, let's say, process is done, what can be done to improve this existing process. So we are having in Finance Latvia Association these discussions as well. So I think that certainly there is a lot of things that could be improved, because also if we are looking from the customer perspective, we are probably never are going to be able to cover every possible channel, and also we will be not able maybe to reach out and inform all the clients. So this discussion about like some particular place where I can go and see. So just to give like what comes to my mind. So currently all of us, or maybe some of us are still using Twitter, some because of the Elon have moved to Mastodon. So I don't have now currently any channels to those who currently are using different social media. So probably we will also create and establish this channel, but again, this is still like a question in very early stages, and is it worth doing? Is it not worth doing? So we are still currently looking how to inform most of the clients, but unfortunately not all. So that's why I think this is a very good point, that maybe there is some particular area or some particular website or application where you can check out this current status.
Yeah, it could be good to have such a way how to easier inform about scams or frauds. For example, for me as an individual, not to think which authority should I choose to report? Is it police or is it CERT or FCMC?
Better it will be that at least from us, we are informing like one governmental institution which informs others. So I think that would be the best. Currently, we are depending on different threat levels, informing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, some single point of contact. Yeah.
So great opportunities for young startups ahead, right?
Exactly.
So thank you very much. It was a great discussion, I think, and great presentation. Breakfast is waiting for you, and you can easily engage with our speakers and with each other during the breakfast. Thank you.